It's another huge Miami show here at the Voice of College Football. Please jump on in and join our longest standing team specific show. And this has only happened this many times and with this type of quality because of this guy, Cam Underwood from State of the U. So jump on in, leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics. You produce the show ultimately. Otherwise, we're just talking Miami football here for the next hour. Cam, what's going on tonight?
Hanging out, man.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. No long preamble from me today.
So Thursday night has typically been our night with Cam. Cam was kind enough to switch things up because I'll be on the road tomorrow. So we've been able to get our show in this week. Again, thanks to Cam. So leave your comments, your debate topics, questions. Consider the super chat. Also, if you want to get your contributions directly to this channel or this show in particular, if you hit me up at Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App at MarkRogersTV, just please include a note to say Cam or Miami, and I will take care of it from there. But thank you so much for the consideration there. All right. It is June the 2nd, and I wrote on a tweet that I sent out promoting the show tonight, and Cam retweeted, critical month for the Canes. Was I overstating that?
No, I think it's critical for everybody, but including Miami. Outside is open. You had a huge group of rising senior visitors yesterday. There were a couple selected underclassmen. So 2022s mainly, but 2023s, there were a couple who said, you know what, why don't y'all come on today's Wednesday, Tuesday, the 1st. I mean, look, y'all go to the same school, whatever. The couple selected, handpicked, Lord Jesus. I'm so sorry to all of my English and diction teachers and speech and everything. Handpicked, selected, there we go, recruits, come on down. Had a camp and underclassmen day going on for a cookout and everything, actually right now at this very moment and everything. But you're starting to get, you're seeing these cryptic little videos. Like, it's the same stuff, man. The little stuff, the nuances of recruiting life that I've missed, man. You get Santana Fleming and Brandon Ennis, two of the best wide receivers that you'll find anywhere. Brandon Ennis has been a 5-star since 5 stars was 5 stars. I mean, he was playing at university school varsity as an 8th grader and dominating. This kid is he's the top handful, probably like 2 or 3 wide receivers in the 2023 class. Him and Santana Fleming both have recently transferred to American Heritage. They're both on campus today. Put up a 5-second clip of them in the uniforms in the practice facility. They, have the U up behind them. You see little stuff like that. You're seeing, on my way to the crib. All these tweets on the timeline, the pictures, the chatter, everybody, around, our former contributor, Gabby Rudia, who's now with 247, him and David Lake are down there, and it's not just Miami. And yes, I'm rooting for Miami, and I want Miami to get like the players that we need and everything, but even just seeing it pop up other places, Florida State, they had a Midnight Madness thing. There were some things to make fun of from that, but still, you got players moving and going to these places and outside again. And it's really great to see, man, getting back towards what's normal. And yeah, it's critical for Miami and every team to really make a big impression with all of the players that they can, get on campus. Obviously, everybody's going to be jockeying to get guys on campus all the same times, so you have, these weeks, the school year ends tomorrow, officially, I believe, is the last day of school for students. And then Friday is a teacher planning day, and then it's all summer. So, hey, all these camps, these unofficial visits, these official visit weekends, which kick off in a day or two, starting on June the 4th and everything. It's critical that Miami start to see some traction. But again, not just Miami, everybody as well. So I don't think it's overstating things. And you can tell it on my, like, this is not disingenuous. This is real, honest enjoyment. This is excitement. I can't wait to see recruiting come back to the way that it was with all these visits, all these things. And I can't wait to see the movement and what happens.
So I don't know that I have thought of it this way before, but it seems rather obvious now that I am thinking of it. But you mentioned because of the connection of where the campus is located, and I'm not talking specifically, but I'm talking about in South Florida, where there are tons and tons and droves of players, that in addition to official visits, you've got those unofficial visits that can be very key to supplement the official visits that Miami, you would think, and it can't be proven, but just logically has an advantage of being in close proximity to most of its recruiting base.
It's proven in terms of the number of visits, not always by that player ending up at Miami, but it's, well publicized. You can go back to all of these high-end, high-level recruits who've picked Miami. They'll pop up at practice. They'll pop up on campus. I mean, these kids know each other. If you're a sophomore on varsity, you know the guys who are seniors. So if you got college sophomores and you're a rising senior, you played with and against some of these guys already. This is what we're talking about every year when, we talk about Miami and Florida State and how closely knit those programs actually are because they played with and against so many people. Same thing if you're trying, just with, not the against part, but the with, on or at the college level roster. So, yeah, you have guys that pop up all the time. Case in point, one of the biggest metaphorically and literally recruits who was on campus yesterday for the hand-selected rising senior event was Shamar Stewart, the 5-star defensive end from Monsignor Pace. He's back on campus tonight with some of his teammates for the underclassmen day. That right there is the proof positive that, for the guys in the local area, they can just pull up, and you will see that. Now, no, again, I'm not guaranteeing that Shamar Stewart or any single recruit is going to end up at Miami, but it is more likely for them to pop up in Miami on a random Tuesday or Wednesday night or whatever it happens to be than a kid from South Florida popping up in Tuscaloosa or Columbus or Clemson it's because of the distance part of it. So, yeah, that is an advantageous thing that, I hope Miami does lean into. Also with the unofficial visit rules that changed a couple of years ago. I know that I spoke about this. I think I wrote about it a couple of years ago, but you can go with the recruit within a 1 mile radius of campus. So like 1 mile from whatever terminal point. That takes you over by the shops at Sunset Place, the original chicken kitchen down there on Red Road. You know what I mean? If you want to go, across, I know that there's, the Fridays, you got I think there's a new burger joint that's taking over a former stall there on US 1 on Dixie Highway, Swenson's Ice Cream, which is still there, which was a wonderful dinner / college date night thing when I was there. You can go there. If you want to go towards the Gables, there's a couple other spots that you can go that are still within a mile, and things like that. So you can leverage some other things that are not actually on campus to augment the recruiting efforts. And again, when you have guys who are here in the close area, they can pop up more and more and more, and they can you start to peel back the layers of the onion. Yeah, I know, okay, the football team and everything, but now we're going to learn a little bit more about the dorms, about these academic programs, about what campus life actually is. Look at these facilities, look at these things on campus, and no, all the facilities does not mean football, because there are other things on campus, like the new student center, the Shalala Student Center with the Raskeller, like the new School of Music buildings. No, you're not going to have many music majors outside of Jalen Phillips and Chad Thomas, but it's a beautiful building, all glass overlooking the lake. Even if you're not going in there to the new music library building, you can go around and say, hey, this is new, this is new, this is new. And it's another thing you can say, this is new and different and amazing and shiny and bright. And, hey, kids, shiny objects. Hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. And you can add that in. You can do other things, and show them other dimensions of the university. And I think that that's, a really great thing, especially if they keep coming back and back and back. They know a lot of it, but they can learn more about it. And hopefully that, engenders that connection. And hopefully the ones that we want come down.
Falconer X, thank you so much for the super sticker contribution. Appreciate that so much. Falconer X always here taking in the live stream. We would ask everyone to consider contributing, but in addition to that, like the videos, share the videos out on social media. Let's bring in a bigger crowd as we roll toward August and August camp, and then the football season, of course, September 4th against the Crimson Tide. All right, you mentioned the Florida State. I'll call it a stunt. aren't schools that do something like that. And I didn't see what happened. I just heard, I saw maybe one or two pics on Twitter about Mike Norvell rolling up in something. And again, it's not something I really looked at, but it struck me as cheesy. I'm not saying it was cheesy. It struck me without looking into it. It just seems like a program of that stature runs a risk of coming across a certain way if they don't hit it. If you can play a conservative and just say, we're who we are and we're going to show you a good time, kind of more a conventional way, or we're going to drift over that line and take a chance.
Conventional only works for Nick Saban. So you got to, I think that they missed the mark at Florida State. Norvell pulled up in that Raptor, the 3-wheeled car thing. And then I saw some of their fans roasting him because he was wearing Wranglers and whatever jeans. So he's like, yo, like you did a great thing with the car, but then like the fit just didn't match and, everything like that. And I mean, at some point you have to take a chance, and if you're, transparently, if you're talking about, okay, I'm Mike Norvell and I'm Florida State and I'm just going to go straight ahead recruiting and not take any chances, just, the traditional way. What about you and your program would get a player to consider them right now? You know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing. So you would have to take these chances and things like that to try to meet people where they are, or to meet the kids, the recruits where they are. So I applaud him for the effort, A for effort, F for execution. But also I believe Florida State went with the Midnight Madness because Miami, if you remember, has been talking about the first day out picnic, June 1st, June 2nd, for weeks, nay on months, when it looked like, okay, June 1st was going to be when outside opened up in terms of recruiting. They already had the plan, said, cool, great. We know it's June 1st, first day out. Let's get it. They were sending out these invites, blah, 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 blah. So that kind of pigeonholed Florida State, I believe, into saying, okay, we know that we can't put up an event in the evening of June 1st. So no 5 Stars of Miami's Cookout. That's a blatant lie, Phil B. I just told you that Shamar Stewart was there yesterday and came back today on the underclassmen day. Get your facts right. And if you want some of them, go over to stateoftheu.com because I wrote about it. And it's still up on the top of the page. So click on over. You might learn something because you're blatantly, objectively, verifiably wrong. But okay. As I was saying, Florida State got pigeonholed, or they painted it a quarter because it said, if we try to do something on the night of June the 1st, a lot of the players that we might want that Miami's also after are already going to Miami. So they looked to find a way to do something on June the 1st, and it ended up being the Midnight Madness thing, which again, A for effort and creativity to do that. I just believe that the execution was lacking. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Sure. College football coaches are much different today than they were 15 or 20 years ago, and it's obviously been an evolution. It wasn't a cut and dry thing. So when Cam mentions Nick Saban, what comes to mind is that Pete Carroll and then Dabo Swinney, for me, seem to be the first true modern day college football coaches that were more buddies of the players, able to relate to the players, laughed on the sidelines, laughed during games, hugged their players openly in front of everyone on a regular basis. Just seemed to be the new breed of college football coaches to me. Again, I'm thinking Pete Carroll and Dabo Swinney. So, Cam, I'm just pontificating myself off a comment that you made about Nick Saban. And to me, when I think about the new breed of college football coach, I think Pete Carroll, and then I think also Dabo Swinney, guys that weren't distant from their team, embrace players on a regular basis, laugh during games. Even Pete Carroll, you'd see him like just fist pumping and laughing during games, just having a great time. And Dabo's the same way, just the way he relates to players. And that you now see across the country. You mentioned Nick Saban. Urban Meyer comes to mind as guys that you would never imagine relating to their players in such a way, just guys that could walk into living rooms and say, this is the record. These are the national titles. Do you want to play for us?
Well, I mean, yeah, there is that, but I mean, I won't say that Saban doesn't do anything because players do say that he's funnier than you might
He's loosened
think.
up a little bit, maybe.
Right? But again, it's behind closed doors and everything. So you do have the media personality and the quit asking me about it on the sidelines and everything. But he's there for his guys, and those guys get developed and they get to the league and they win. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of that, but yeah, there are definitely different styles of coaching and also recruiting. And I think that you're seeing a lot of those start to, get enacted as outside is opening up and recruiting is picking back up.
Jeff, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. Jeff had mentioned earlier in the chat that this is his favorite show of the week. So thank you so much for the contribution there, Jeff. I got to say, I have not remembered ever seeing your name pop up in the chat. So thank you so much for watching and contributing. Mike Hormel is lunch and meat because am I missing something there?
Nah, it was a typo because the O is next to the P on the keyboard.
Yes.
But
opened one up on them. Yep.
I mean, we opened the can of Hormel chili whoop ass on them last year. That's for damn sure. So, yeah.
All right. So June 4th is the date. Obviously, there's a number of dates around that, but people are kind of pinning the 4th, the 11th, the 18th, the 25th. Those are the Fridays leading into the weekends. But again, a number of activities and so forth. That first batch of players that are coming on campus, can you kind of highlight where we stand with who looks to be leaning, or who does Manny Diaz need to do a little bit more work on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that everybody work needed to be done because neither of the two commitments are visiting this weekend for various reasons. But it's a good, solid group. It's a good group to start off your year. So Traquan Fagan, the cornerback from Oxford, Alabama, 4-star. He's 75 overall in the composite. He's visiting 6'2" corners who can play like Fagan's. That's a need. And we talked about that already in the last couple of weeks of, that hypothetical amazing recruiting class at cornerback. Hey, I would say for 3 of the 4 kids that were previously listed, it was Chris Graves, Jordan Allen, the other 2, I forget, but you guys can go back and watch videos. If you had Traquan Fagans instead of pretty much any of them in that group, that'll work for a top 75 kid who's a top 10 in his position at a great position of need. So he's a player who's going to be here. Omar Graham Jr. from Stranahan High School in Fort Lauderdale is an athletic linebacker who's really seen his profile rise. He's still a 3-star, but he's another kid who will probably end up as a 4-star after a really, really strong junior season, and just a bunch of teams after him, including Miami. So that's great. Chris Graves, a 4-star corner from Bishop Verot in Fort Myers. That's the same high school that Malik Curtis came from. Listed as an athlete, but he's more accomplished as a defensive back than Malik Curtis was coming out, but also a track star, but not as fast as Curtis. 6'1", 175 is Graves. And yeah, he's going to stick on the defensive side. You can watch some of his highlights from his spring game. I don't think that they threw at him. And I've seen him because I follow a lot of these recruits now, and everything. And he was, quoting the tweets and saying, "Yeah, they scared me, coach. They won't throw over here." Because the writer on the side, I think it was Andrew Ivins from 247, was on the sidelines. He's taking this video, and it's just in phase coverage, and the ball's not coming this way. So yeah, he quoted. He's like, "Yeah, they scared of me. They don't want to throw the ball over here because they know what's going to happen." And I love that attitude. So he's visiting also. So too also is Jordan Allen from Lafayette, Louisiana. Who's another cornerback recruit. He's another one that was listed in that prior group of 4. If we got these 4, would you be happy with that? Yes. So Jordan Allen is down this weekend. You have Anthony Jones from Henderson, Nevada. He's a big athlete, probably looking at either a tight end or defensive end, depending on how things break. with him, but he's a big-bodied kid with, 6'5", 245, with athleticism and, shocking quickness for a man his size, as they once said about the Mountain on Game of Thrones. So, he is another kid who's a 3-star who's visiting. Malik Agbo from Washington, Federal Way, Washington, so way, on the West Coast. 4-star offensive lineman, offensive tackle, is about 6'6", 320. He would probably be the highlight, the headliner behind the 3 defensive backs already listed for this week, because Miami needs offensive linemen. And, hey, if you're coming all the way across the country for the first visit weekend that is available, that speaks volumes. Now, again, my personal rule or thought on the process is, for an elite out-of-state player such as Agbo, you need an unofficial visit and official visit to the school to really be considered real about things. So 2 different visits. So this is one, and this is huge, because the official visit is really where you can do some other things in the recruiting process and see movement. But even if, and I don't think this is going to happen, but let's pretend that Malik Agbo committed this weekend, right? He would need to return again in the fall for me to really say, okay, this is how this is going to go. But that's just me. Also, there's a defensive tackle from Fort Valley, Georgia, Quintel Jones, who is big and tough and physical and mean. And he, would be another player to plug in on the interior of Miami's defense, who's visiting this weekend. So I think you have a total, at least right now, expected of 7 visitors. Of that group, I would say Miami is probably in the best position, with probably Graves and Allen. But I don't think, obviously by getting them down here, you do have a connection with all of those guys. And hopefully this weekend is really leveraged to make moves. I always do the same thing every official visit weekend when I write the piece, which is going to go up on Friday, because old habits die hard and I'm off tomorrow. So I got time to write. Over under commitments, 0.5. I said it like that every single official visit weekend. You can look back, and I've been doing this now coming up on 8-9 seasons of doing these visit previews and doing the same things. Way over 2+ commitments, over 1, under 0. And I always set the number at 0.5 or half a commit, because I want to make you choose if you think something's going to shake. I don't necessarily, I hope that it does, because again, going back to the previous conversation from last week and the week before, 1 commit a week through the month of June now puts us at 6 commitments going into July 4th week and everything past that. I would like to see it, but I would like to wait and make sure that whenever these kids commit, they stick. But I'll set the number at 0.5, because I always do, and we'll see how it goes.
Kim and I come on every week. Typically on Thursday night. We're here on Wednesday, thanks to Cam, accommodating my schedule. So dig on in for the rest of the hour with your comments and questions. Falconer X. This is going to be possibly, based on his comment there, gonna test a theory. Maybe what I need to do is, every time I see the opportunity where I can overlook a Miami player or coach, or just Miami in general, I'll throw it out there so somebody can then retort, because that's a decent example right there. Jimmy Johnson, one of the original player coaches. I don't know if he invented it. We're talking about an evolution of a concept or an approach. Obviously, it's not somebody invented it, but case in point, it makes sense. Good stuff. All right. Where was I going to go? I would love to know that if we took, because I think that people who aren't necessarily, that they love college football, but they're not recruiting junkies, devalue the 3-star. I think there's a line of delineation for most college football fans that root for a top 25 type program, where the 5 stars are amazing. Of course, there's only a few of those, but they want to see 4-star, 4 stars, and that the 3-star gets slighted like, he's only a 3-star. I would love to see some type of measurement. I know that we have, looking at the NFL draft, looking at Pro Bowl players in the NFL, but let's say at the collegiate success level, all conference type players. I think there are more 3-stars who accomplish and become impact players at the collegiate level than we give credit to.
Absolutely. And it's just because of a sheer numbers game. The 3 stars become the catch-all. And again, with my history and education, I'm going to lean on that for the example here. This is the distribution of stars in recruiting is like grade inflation in your schools. Because, you'll just say it's easier for, and look, again, I taught for 15 years. I know what I'm talking about. It's easier to give little Johnny a 60 than fail him. Because then I don't got to hear from administration that I'm being punitive. I don't got to hear, about from parents I don't got to hear about any of these things if I fail them, because then now they don't get their credit. They're not going to graduate. And everybody has some sob story about being winning and like it was so hard and da-da-da-da. I would rather just say, hey, look, man, turn something in so I can give you a 58 or a 60. Keep it moving. And so you give all these A, Bs, and Cs, maybe a couple of Ds, but you're not using the full distribution in a normal curve, the bell curve, kind of a way, which normally is how grades would go. You would follow the bell curve. There'd only be a couple A's, only be a couple F's, and then, you fill in towards the middle, and the majority would get C's just because of statistics, because numbers work. Same thing in recruiting here. There are some kids, the unranked kids, the kids without a profile, those are going to be your 2 stars and 1 stars, or 0 stars. Like every once in a blue moon, you get a Zion Nelson who was a 2-star until he committed to Miami. He got bumped up to a 3. But you're not using all 5 stars in the process to identify all of the players. So since you want to say basically this is a guy who could get a scholarship anywhere. Now the 3, so if you're looking at 5 stars, that's like 32 a year maximum. 4 stars, you probably got from 32 to 170-ish, give or take. So like 140 something. 3-star goes into the thousands. You know what I mean? So it's just like all these different guys. And every 3-star is not a 5-year developmental guy who will only contribute as a 5th-year senior. Now, you do have some of those, but you also have some 3-stars who maybe got injured as a sophomore or junior. They come back and then they develop and they change their bodies and they can play a little bit earlier. So the variety of 3-stars is wide as well. So it's both the quantity and the variegated quality of 3-stars. But yeah, you'll see a lot more 3-stars who can be, honorable mention, 3rd team, maybe 2nd team. Hey, maybe even they blow up in their 1st team all conference eventually. But yeah, there are more success stories at the college level with 3-stars. Now going forward to the NFL draft, we've already seen the numbers fall off and blah, 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 blah. But in college, the value is there. The thing that changes the lower the star ranking is the time horizon for their impact. 5 stars, if I get them on campus, I need them to play right now. Leonard Taylor and James Williams this season for the University of Miami, I need them to play. I don't need them to start and clock 700 snaps on defense, but I need them on the field. 3-star, I might not need them right now. I might not need them only a little bit next year. It might be a couple, 3 years out. Again, Danny Isadora, John Feliciano. Those were guys who really did not contribute at Miami until their 3rd year, that redshirt sophomore year as offensive linemen. Both Feliciano's still in the league. I think Isadora's still kicking around. Ended up a 2nd team All ACC. Was a 3-star from Weston Cypress Bay High School. So you can find those success stories. It's just the prism you're looking for that success. Are you looking for a 1st-round draft pick? Are you looking for the all-time leader in passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, something like that? Or a solid player who started and helped take the team forward and help them win games? So yeah, there's a variety of successes to be found at the 3-star level. But on the flip side, there's a variety of failures to be found as well, because some of those guys who you think might be that 3 years and able to hack it at this level, you find out we're actually at the bottom of that 3-star stack. And then all of a sudden you're recruiting over that scholarship as you process them out and have them seek shelter elsewhere, hopefully with the transfer.
So again, so I get these numbers straight. You ran it down. We usually have about 35 or 45 stars, something in that range.
Yeah, it's like 28 to 32. It's even fewer.
Something like that. Okay. Then the 4-stars. If we go to the top 300 list, which 247 and ESPN, they go to that 300 list, Rivals at 250. So we're still in the 4 stars at 300, right?
Should be.
I believe
Yeah,
we are.
maybe I said that a little bit, or
Okay.
I was a little stingy on the 4-star ranking, but yes,
Okay.
that should be about right.
So let's say it goes to 450, whatever it goes to. We've got about 300 4-stars, something in that range, roughly,
Right.
very roughly.
Right.
And then we don't know the 3-stars, where that number goes. Thousands. Okay.
It goes until, honestly, because if you look on any of those lists, you're not going to see any 2-stars. You're not going to see any 1-stars because, again, you're not using all of the different numberings or star levels all the way down. It's going to be a whole bunch of 3-stars and then some guys with profiles who are NR for not rated. And eventually, depending on who offers them, they might get bumped up to a 3-star. But none of these sites want to have, because it's looked at as punitive. And again, same thing in education. D's and F's are looked at as punitive, or you're trying to, my perfect daughter or my little son who didn't show up to your class and didn't do any work and cussed you out and called you every name in the entire book, skipped all the skipped all the performances, including districts and state. They did it, whatever. Didn't turn in their uniform until you put on a $700 dress obligation, which I always did because I got my dresses back. But then you're like, okay, well, they got an F because they skipped district states. They didn't do this. I have all these other things I can verifiably show they did not do. Oh, now it looks punitive if you give them that F. And so for a recruiting site, it looks punitive against the player if you say, this is a 1-star, you know what I mean? Or this is a 2-star. I don't think that, if you're going that, I don't think that he can play at the FBS, not even the FCS level. This is a kid who should be a Division II or Division III player at that level. But it would be better. And this is demonstrated over the course of time. It is better for the recruiting sites if they just say, we know who this player is. We're not going to give him a ranking right now. And if something changes, if he gets recruited, then we're going to bump him up to a 3-star. I've talked to guys who work at these websites. I know that that's how it works. Yeah, agree or disagree, it just is.
So if we go to pick your MAC school, Mountain West school, and look at their commitment list for any year, we're not going to see 2-stars?
Usually not.
Really? Okay.
I believe. I can look at a couple, but it's very infrequent that they're actually going to list somebody as that. Let's go to Bowling Green State University. And let's go to commitments. And then let's go to 2016. They had a 2-star running back. Okay, 446 in the country. So that's 1. And then all the rest of them are not rated. And then they ended up throwing 2-stars on them because they're in the, hundreds and 200s of their position group, but not even listed in the national number. And since it's 2016, I'm pretty sure they went back and retroactively changed the position ranking and added the 2-stars because they signed with an FCS or FBS school that's in a non-Power 5 conference. But most times, you're not going to see on a list now, like today on June 4th, I would be stunned if you saw 2-stars and some kid's name on a list right now. That's something I could throw on at the end to say, okay, they're an FBS level recruit. Boom.
This is our Miami show that comes your way each and every week, courtesy Cam Underwood from State of the U. So check out his work and the rest of the staff there at stateoftheu.com. SB Nation, well established, well read by me. So check it out again right there. And again, we hope you appreciate Cam's insight, his knowledge, his energy, everything he brings to the table each and every week. Typically on Thursday night, we're here on a Wednesday. And we've got over 100 on the line. Appreciate you being here. Share the links out on social media. I think we could do much better than this. We have on other occasions during the off season, leading into the season. So we expect a pretty competitive team there at Miami. And we're just about maybe 6 weeks away from August camp, something in that range, a little bit more than that. So bring your friends, people you know, out on social media and otherwise, or face-to-face here for our Miami shows. All right, nice little segue into Mark East's comment. Would be the Hall of Fame nominees that were announced today. So Mark is basically stating that his favorite quarterback, and possibly the greatest in the history of the program, is Bernie Kosar. What quarterback selections would we make? And that ties into Ken Dorsey's nomination today for the College Football Hall of Fame, along with Larry Coker and Bryant McKinnie.
Yeah, so 3 of the 10 polls of the greatest college football team ever, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes, national championship winning team. Yeah, and I think that they all have a good case to go into the College Football Hall of Fame, obviously being named as finalists. Ken Dorsey, one of the winningest quarterbacks here in Miami, scrawny little kid from Northern California, and just started winning. And, just had that competitive spirit, not the most amazing athlete, not the strongest arm or anything. But, I mean, sometimes you just have that ineffable quality of leadership. And was also surrounded by, again, the greatest collection of talent that we've seen in a long time. And, yeah, so, a national champion, with Miami, Bryant McKinnie, nobody ever – and so Bryant McKinnie helped Ken Dorsey because nobody got around Mount McKinnie. Like, they didn't so much as lay a hand on Ken Dorsey coming around the defense's right, offense's left side with McKinnie at left tackle. Famously, McKinnie shut down Dwight Freeney, the sack leader from Syracuse at the time, who was just wreaking havoc every single week. And, all the chatter was, how is Miami going to account for, Freeney and, what he does and how he disrupts. And they said, we got Big 74. Done. And it was, which is great. So he had a first round draft pick, long NFL career and everything. And then Larry Coker was the coach of that team. Say what you will about the fact that you or I or anyone could have coached the 2001 team to a championship, being led by the players that they were led by in the locker room. Regardless of your feelings on that, Larry Coker did it. He started his career coaching with the most consecutive wins of any first-time coach at a school. Because we were running things. Again, we lost the second game my freshman year at Washington, which was still Butch Davis's last year, and didn't lose again until week 7 to North Carolina my senior year. Like, there were no losses in the interim. It was crazy. It was amazing. And for, my sophomore and junior years and the beginning of my senior year at college at the University of Miami, Larry Coker was the coach guiding the Hurricanes to all of those wins. So, again, regardless of your feelings on his abilities or, actual impact with the team, he was there and deserves the nomination for that fact. So, yeah, I think that all 3 have good cases. I would probably say the players before the coach will get into the College Football Hall of Fame, if it were me. This is where I'm going to say again that the rule that the coach has to have a 60% win percentage to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, which is the sole disqualifying factor for Howard Schnellenberger, is bullshit. Between the University of Miami and what he did in terms of roster building and recruiting, which is done now literally across the board. There is not a program that does not enact what Howard Schnellenberger did in terms of recruiting, especially an elite program, especially targeting players from down here in South Florida, expanding their recruiting departments, expanding the budgets to be able to come down here to try to compete for some of these players to get them on their roster. That doesn't happen if Howard Schnellenberger doesn't famously go push the state of Miami, make it known that this is this treasure trove recruiting area, which is how Miami got to be Miami, a latecomer to the party, an unexpected dynasty. And he said, this is how we did it. This is who we got and where they're from, which signals to everybody this is where we need to go get people across the board. That is still propagated. propagated. If you look at the University of Louisville, where Schnellenberger coached, they had love for him, God rest his soul, but, all the things that he did there. FAU football did not exist until Howard Schnellenberger. Now, could there have been somebody else who eventually went there and started a program at FAU? There could have been, but I know who did it, and it was Howard Schnellenberger. And point of fact, again, until Howard Schnellenberger is in the College Football Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame is null and void, regardless of all the other people who are worthily in there. He is worthy, with all of the accolades in the world, all the impact in the world at 3 different institutions, and again, across the landscape of college football. And it is unacceptable that a Hall of Fame for this sport does not recognize the contributions and success and achievements of the late, great Howard Schnellenberger. So I am happy for Ken Dorsey and Brian McKinney and Larry Coker, and I do hope that all 3 of them get in, but I will not stop saying that Howard Schnellenberger should be in the College Football Hall of Fame, and until they do, they continue to be on that bullshit.
I'm a numbers guy to a certain extent. I love numbers. I believe in numbers. I remember numbers. So it might be one of the reasons why I like numbers, but they need to be taken into context. They can be used as guidelines, not rules. Guidelines. Cam is a baseball fan. Me as a baseball fan know that if you get 3,000 hits, you're going to go to the Hall of Fame in baseball. But it's a guideline. It's a landmark. It's a milestone, not a rule. Oh, got to get 3. This guy got 29.93. I was looking at a player the other day in Major League Baseball, one of my favorites of all time, Kenny Lofton. And I'm not saying he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but he's got really strong, or what should be considered, at least let's look at the Hall of Fame. And he's got like 2,400 base hits. Okay, he was a 300 career hitter. If he sticks around for 4 more seasons and is a shell of himself, a shell of what he previously was, just sticks around, hits 240, 250 a year, gets 110 hits a year, he's going to get to 3,000 hits. Now, was that additional work that he put in, was that Hall of Fame worthy? Is that what made him a Hall of Fame player? No. So why the compilation of numbers? Why the emphasis on that? It's ridiculous. And in Howard Schnellenberger's, I hope I say this with a little bit more to add to what you had to say. I don't want to repeat what you said, but I just think it's ridiculous. Let's put the man's achievements into context. If he wins a national championship at Texas, Ohio State, USC, that's great. It should be credited to him. But that's being done at those schools throughout history anyway by several different people. This man takes over a program in 1979 that, as Cam has outlined eloquently in other shows, was being considered to be dismissed, ended.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's not just me. Look it up on the U 30 for 30. Read it in Bruce Feldman's book, Cane Mutiny and everything. You can go and look it up. Miami was considering dropping football at that time because it was not that kind of a program.
And so to win a national championship a few years later, and certainly he needed the help of others. He didn't do it by himself. Everybody needs help, but he was the paramount figure in the building of that program. To do that within that context versus, again, you do that at Ohio State, USC, or Texas, great job, but a number of other people have proven that they can do that. You're walking into a factory that's producing championships versus building the one that launches a dynasty. So then also look at what happened after that. He launched a dynasty that rivals the great dynasties in the history of college football over the next 20 some odd years. Okay, he goes to Louisville. They hadn't had a winning season. I believe the figure was about 12 years.
Yeah.
He doesn't churn out these incredible seasons, but basically he takes over a program that's winning 2 and 3 games, and he starts knocking out 8 and 3, 7 and 4s. He substantially makes them a better program. a reasonably good program. And then he has one really good year where they go 10-1-1, finish in the top 6 or 7 in the country, and blast Alabama in the Fiesta Bowl. He takes Louisville from 2-3 wins to a Fiesta Bowl win over Alabama in a top 10 ranking with a 10-1 football team. Then he goes to FAU, and again, he basically, his all-time record suffers because he launches a program. You're not going to launch a program and start churning out 10-2 seasons. It's going to hurt your record. Put the accomplishments within context. And his winning percentage is like 58%. It's like...
Right. It's not like he caught, lightning in a bottle one season, goes 13-0, wins the national championship, and then was 1-14 at New Mexico State for the rest of perpetuity of all time. You know what I mean? Into perpetuity. Like, come on, bro.
We're not trying to stretch a guy that had a 42% winning percentage to be a Hall of Famer. He comes within percentage points.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And just the thought of, think of that standard, 60%. So for a regular season in college football, 8-4 is just above 60%. Of course, 67%, 7-5, I think, is just below, like 58%. So if somebody shows up at, pick your school that's like mid-tier, Stanford, Iowa, TCU, alternates 7-5 and 8-4 seasons for 10 years, which is going to land you 4th or 5th place in a Power 5 conference every year. That coach has earned a Hall of Fame bid for going 7-5 and 8-4 every other year for 10 years and finishing in 5th place in his conference every year. That's a Hall of Fame resume.
Well, I mean, not necessarily a resume, but like they have to have done that to be eligible. Yeah. But like, again, a college football Hall of Fame without Howard Schnellenberger is not anybody's Hall of Fame that I want to be a part of. And it's an easy fix. Just put the man in posthumously. He's already passed on. It's not like he's going to come back and coach more games and win the 4 games he needs to get over 60%. But the impact that he had on the game lasts and still exists. So, give him his due. Give him his flowers, even though he's already passed on. And posthumously put him into the College Football Hall of Fame, which is the right thing for anybody who is a fan of this sport. It's just... Again, I get that there are criterion. I get that there are rules and everything. But, when there's a rule, there's an exception. If there's ever been an exception to this antiquated or just asinine standard for disqualification, it is Howard Schnellenberger.
And that's, again, why I'm typically in favor of guidelines and not rules. Here's a stupid rule. I will include this on the list. A player has to have been a first-team All-American on a list recognized by the NCAA.
Yes.
I don't think that's okay. I bet there are hundreds of examples. I've not looked into this, but I'm going to bring you one, and you're not going to be totally in support of this as a fan, but I think you will as an analyst. Ezekiel Elliott ran for over 1,800 yards back-to-back seasons and 22, 24 touchdowns. We all know how good the guy is. Okay. And may have had the greatest stretch of games in playoff competition during this short history. He ran for 220, 236, 256, conference championship game, Oregon, Alabama playoff games, national championship games. Okay. During his 2-year run where he was extremely good, 14 and 15, the All-American spots at running back were being taken up by the likes of Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, and there was somebody else in there I missed, like 5 ridiculous running backs. So you're going like 3 deep. You're going into the 3rd team All-Americans with great players.
Mm-hmm.
Again, make it a guideline.
But then you also have to talk about, what are the lists accepted by the NCAA? Because, are you talking about your publications? You know about SI versus Street Smiths versus, ESPN versus 247, CBS Sports. If all of those are on the list, then I'm sure that he was first team All-American on somebody's. You know what I mean? So there could be that. But yeah, I do see your point of like, it was just a glut of guys who are still in the league and still playing very, very, well at the high end, the top end of that position. You can only have 2, maybe a third if you use the utility spot, which is where I know that they stashed Christian McCaffrey a couple of those lists. They said, okay, we're going to have running back, and then put him at utility because he also returned kicks, punts, and then was a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. So, but yeah, it's the same kind of thing of just looking at it and seeing what's a guideline and what's a rule, and I think guidelines fit better.
Falconer X, thank you so much again for a super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. And Cam can certainly speak to this, but he did an amazing job at the point in which Howard Schnellenberger passed away. What was that? About maybe 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And Cam outlined how he built the program and his approach and just his forward vision, his energy, his presence, his leadership, all the things that he did, and his strategy in doing exactly what I believe Falconer X is getting into here, where he says Howard Schnellenberger went into neighborhoods and homes of kids many other coaches would not go to, and he was respected. We would all be better off if we were more like Howard. He should be in the American Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, and I spoke about it, when I eulogized him that week, but, the second big wave of integration in college football was really kicked off by Howard Schnellenberger, going into Overtown, going into Opelika, going into Liberty City, going into these mainly inner city Black neighborhoods in Miami, that to this day, people still stay away from some of those. You know what I mean? Like, they don't go down to Liberty City. They don't go down, they don't. Because you come to Miami, you go to South Beach, or you go to, Brickell, or, downtown or whatever, but you're like, cool, I'm going to stay over there. But getting a little bit further west and closer to 95, where, it's, still the hood a little bit, you have a little lower socioeconomic status, things like that. You have and it's, mainly packed with Black and brown people. That's where, your general tourist is not going to go. And, you had people who were skirting that area even as they were working at the University of Miami or whatever. But Howard Schnellenberger, again, he just said, look, I'm going to go where the players are. And if that means I'm going to go to these places, then it's whatever. And that kind of mentality and sentiment, just sentiment, it means something, and there was, with Ernie Davis at Syracuse and other players from their places, I'm not going to say there was no integration at all, but that was like your first wave. And your second big wave of integration, when you see Alabama really leaning into integrating their roster. You see LSU, who also ran in their own state. They don't miss on a top tier talent now, but before it was Grambling or Southern in Louisiana. The HBCUs, that's where the Black and brown kids were going, not to LSU, not because they couldn't play there. It's because they weren't looking that way. You know what I mean? And it wasn't only Howard. There were probably another couple coaches in that, but that second big wave of integrating college football to be what it is now, he was at the forefront of that, plain and simple. And that's what Falconer X is getting at, by going into those places, by going into those neighborhoods in the city of Miami, which now, you see recruits coming from all of these places, whether it's, in Detroit, which famously was, one of the murder capitals of the world when I was growing up. And there were places, on the east side and everything, even with the Cass Corridor, which had, it was terrible. You want to go over there. You got Chicago, where both of my parents are from, my grandparents lived, and everything. You had one of the most notorious projects in America, Cabrini Green and everything. But now you got people going over there and they're recruiting in New Orleans into the, some of the rougher neighborhoods in Miami and Philly, in all these places. And it's not just here, but, Howard Schnellenberger, again, was at the forefront of that. And it speaks to the person that he was and everything. And I'm not going to say it was completely magnanimous, because you want the players to come and help you win games and things like that. But previously with other people, even knowing that going there would get you the players to help you win was not enough to actually get you to go there. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's I mean, it's another part. It's another page in the storybook with the late great Howard Schnellenberger.
Good stuff across the board here. We started with recruiting. We made our way through the day selections for nominees for the College Football Hall of Fame, which I believe totaled 78, including 3 from the U, Ken Dorsey, Larry Coker, and Bryant McKinney. Cam Underwood, State of the U, SB Nation. What do you guys have going on?
A lot of stuff. I'm finalizing the summer content calendars, so those should go up. I got email. My email actually just changed right now. Somebody sent in what they were requesting to be able to cover, so I got all of that stuff. Baseball is in the regionals for the towards the College World Series, so going to Gainesville is the number 2 seed in that regional. So obviously we're looking at that. Just continuing some of those things that have already started. Craig T. Smith's top 10 most wanted non-conference games. We're going to continue that. Romans, I'd steal that schematic scheme theme pieces. JP just talking about stuff. Marsh just talking about stuff. I never know what's going on in their brains, but it pops up on the website. And then I get to flex my my recruiting muscles again and let my fingers do the walking. So we got all that. We got plenty more, man. So yeah, come on over and fan with us, stateoftheu.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the State of the U. I'm at Underwood Sports. There's no Top Chef tonight because tonight is Wednesday, not Thursday. But I will be free to live tweet Top Chef right at 8 o'clock. Well, probably not 8 o'clock, probably 8:30 or 9 o'clock because I let it record on my DVR a little bit. But, we got all kinds of stuff going on this summer. So, we're going to just look at some things, try to, be the leaders in commentary and analysis like we are, and just continue to connect with you guys. So come on over and connect with us, and hopefully you enjoy what you find over there. And Phil B, again, the Florida State fan who wants to be loud and wrong, come on over to State of the U, click around, especially in that recruiting section, and learn something that will inform your mouth. Because I forget who said it. It was Abraham Lincoln. It's better to be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. You're on the opening your mouth side. So shut it, open your eyes and ears, learn something, and that'll help you, buddy. You're welcome.
I also laughed because I had in mind Kevin James, King of Queens, which I think was actually a takeoff from Jackie Gleason, The Honeymooners, when he goes, Shuddy!
Yeah. Shuddy! Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
All right, Cam, appreciate you adjusting your schedule this week. Everybody, of course, let people know that we're here every week talking Miami football. We would love to have a huge crowd in here. And this show was definitely brought to you by Falconer X. So Falconer X, thank you so much for your contributions tonight, and everybody else. Cam, did you know 160 million people in America shop Amazon every month?
It's a lot of people.
It's like half the country. So if half the people that watch us would grab the link in the description section and shop Amazon using the link, which is exactly the same shopping experience that you get otherwise, that would help us build the channel. So, Cam, thank you so much. You're the best.
Problem.
You know it. We'll see you later.
Man, I'm the man next to the man. So, do your thing. Enjoy your travels, and we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. I'm doing a call-in show in just a few minutes on the main channel. See you then.